With the Vortex book study. And if anyone wants to join me on Zoom, you can grab the link from the events page. All right, let's get started. So just a reminder that this is not a reading of the book. I'm not reading the book here. We are discussing the material in the book. And I will tell you that there is a lot behind every single sentence that Abraham has used in order to convey the message to us. There's so much behind every single word. Good morning, Tamika. Who else is there? I don't know. I can't see the names on Facebook. All right. We'll just keep going. Drop me a comment and then I will see your name. We are starting today on page 118, and we are still discussing the topic of sexuality and different customs and rules that rules and customs that have to do with sexuality. The section is called Sexuality, Sensuality, and the Opinions of Others. We're beginning on page 118. The heading is What if Humans Behaved Sexually Like the Wild Animals? And Jerry's question to Abraham is, Jerry says, so getting back to the animals who do seem to behave from their non-physical guidance or instinct, as we have come to call it, our rooster and his hens have no written laws or rules that they are conforming to. It's just what comes from within them. And so if we could be born into this planet and start fresh like that, without rules, it seems like we too should be able to operate from our inner beings without the need of outside restrictions. But instead, we are born into societies and cultures that already have rules and controls that they insist we conform to. Now, what is Jerry saying? I'm just going to boil it down. Jerry is saying that if the earth started with humanity from scratch and there were no people already on planet Earth, therefore there were no norms, no regulations, no rules existing, and you were born, you could behave from your guidance system naturally. But that's not the case. We are born into societies, into families, into religions, and the rules already exist, and we are expected to conform to those rules. Abraham says that you do have guidance. So just because you are born in an environment that has rules does not mean that you don't have guidance. You do have guidance. And the thing with that guidance is, I'm going to read Abraham's words here, and while you do believe that you are hindered by the controls set forth by other humans, we want you to know that this control is not as large or as hindering as you believe, because your innate non-physical impulses are even stronger. So what Abraham is saying is that it doesn't matter what rules the society has made. Remember the basics of law of attraction. If law of attraction tells me that I can have, be, or do anything I want, then that really means that it doesn't matter what rules society is making, what the government is making. I can still live my life based on my guidance. The thing that changes is when we start paying attention to the rules and we start feeling that the rules are out to get us, or we feel guilty somehow because we are not keeping the rules. So when you feel that way, you go down the emotional scale, and now you cannot have, be, or do the things that you want. It's really as simple as that. Now, Abraham goes on to say on page 119, many more of you break those rules and always have broken those rules. That is because your non-physical impulses are so strong. What you feel inside you is so strong. And then Abraham uses this example of saying, what if suddenly tomorrow there was a law that said you are no longer allowed to eat? Well, you know that you will find a way to eat. You will find a way to eat because it's part of your human nature. You cannot get rid of it. It is an instinct that you must satisfy. In the same way, you can't stop from breathing. You can't stop living off life. So then Jerry goes from there and he says, what about when society disapproves of sexual individuality? I'm going to read the question out to you. Jerry says, so what if you feel good when you think about a specific action, but when you consider what others think about your action, you don't feel good? Then what would you suggest? So the first thing is, if you stayed lined up, which means you wanted to do something and you stayed lined up with it, it would happen. Now, having said that, I will tell you that if what you want leads to someone else getting hurt, you cannot be high on the emotional scale, because if you knowingly hurt someone, then you are not coming from a place of unconditional love, and the highest place on the emotional scale is the place of unconditional love. So we have to operate within within the rules that pertain to the emotional scale, and understand those rules and understand where we stand with respect to the emotional scale in order for us to make decisions that would work out well for us. So Abraham says, when you allow yourself and your actions to be guided by the opinions of others outside of you, you are invariably taking your guidance from other people rather than from the guidance that comes to you from within. So then you're not lined up. We can have a really long discussion about this, and there are people, and I've seen that, and I've been in that culture, and I know how it works, is that you accept the guidance that comes to you, for example, from your parents, and you don't push back because you are accepting of it. You feel good about it. You feel good about doing what your parents are telling you to do. And because you feel good, you're going up the emotional scale. And because you're going up the emotional scale, then nothing is going wrong. You're able to easily let go the action and not do that thing that you wanted to do, because it's not the path of least resistance. And living life based on the law of attraction is always about using and staying on the path of least resistance. So let's take a look at what Abraham is saying. I'm going to read this paragraph because I found this, I've highlighted the whole paragraph, so that's why I'm going to read it. Your question is an important one because through it you are trying to understand which of your emotions to trust or follow. The good feeling emotion that came in response to your personal thoughts about your personal experience, or the bad feeling emotion that came in response to your awareness of the disapproval of another. So the thing is, the approval of others is a very strong force as well. And sometimes the joy that you feel because of the approval of others is so big that giving up this little thing that you have to give up in order to obtain that joy doesn't seem like a very big sacrifice. Therefore, you don't go down the emotional scale. Really, as simple as that. the only thing is negative emotion. So let's say that, your parents or society or whatever wants you to behave in a certain way. And you behave in that way, but internally you're pushing back. You're saying, this isn't right. I should not have to behave this way. Why are they asking me to do this? In that case, you are not lined up because you're feeling bad. And feeling good or bad is the litmus test. That is the only thing that you need to pay attention to. All right, let's keep moving. So I'm going to read from the book. Abraham says, so when you feel negative emotion, it always means that your currently active thought is out of alignment with the knowledge of source. But sometimes, and I'm going to say that again, and sometimes listening to others doesn't feel bad. It feels good. So the thing that I want you to focus on is that it's not about whether you're listening to others and you're doing what other people are telling you to do, or whether you are following your own instincts and doing what your instincts are telling you to do. The thing to pay attention to is which one feels good. If it feels good, as Abraham says, if it feels good, it is good. If it doesn't feel good, it is not good. All right. So Abraham then says, when you disapprove of others, you will always feel negative emotion. And that is exactly what I'm saying, is that if there is a rule and you follow it and you feel good about following the rule, awesome. Nothing is going wrong there. But if you follow a rule and your self-talk is negative, 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 why are they getting me to do this? I don't want to do this. It is not fair. They shouldn't be asking me to do these things. Now you are doing the action, but in here you are pushing back. And if you are pushing back, then you are acting in a way that is not aligned with the source within you. All right. Hi, Rochelle. Hi, Bev. Good to see you. Hi, Yolanda. Good to see you. Awesome. All right. All right, guys. Getting back to the book. So then Abraham says, when people replace their personal guidance system by an attempt to modify their behavior to please others, now they're not going to feel happy. And when you don't feel happy, you lose control. You see, the whole point here is about control. Am I controlling my experience? Am I creating my own reality? Or are other people controlling my experience and my reality? And the thing is that as long as you're happy and you're high on the emotional scale, even if you are living within the confines of rules that have been imposed on you, you will have a pretty good life. And that this is why we see people who follow a certain culture or society or religion. There are those people within that religion who are not living good lives, but we also see people who are happy and satisfied and abundant and attracting every single thing that they want, and they are not pushing against the rules. I know such people. I know such people, and I love them dearly. And I appreciate the fact that they are able to live within the confines of the rules that they find themselves with, and they actually find logical reasoning to support the rules. And so following the rules does not feel bad to them. Following those rules actually feels good to them. And that's important to understand and remember. So then Abraham says, I lost my place. I think I'm on page 121. Yes, I'm going to just read something that I've highlighted. Abraham says, you have no way of convincing all others of the rightness of your opinion. And even when you come together and pronounce laws against inappropriate behavior, you have no way of enforcing those laws. There is not enough money in the world to buck the natural currents of individual freedom and independence of thoughts. Right? So we can come to a consensus by a vote, which we see in what we call democratic societies. You can have you can go to the polls and cast your vote, but you cannot convince everyone who lives in that same country of the rightness or wrongness of the candidate who actually wins the election. You cannot. And you can create laws that say this is inappropriate behavior, and there will always be someone right there to break those laws. Why? Why will there always be someone who will break the laws? Because they're following their instinct. And then Abraham says there's simply not enough money in the world to buck the natural currents of individual freedom and independence of thought. So you have to understand something, and that is that people can take action from wherever they are on the emotional scale. Momentum leads to action. So if you make a rule and there are certain people who are not living within those rules, what are you going to do? Are you going to watch every single action of every single person in the world? Abraham says that there's simply not enough money in the world to do so. And so then Abraham says people have forgotten that this is an inclusion-based universe, and that law of attraction is the manager who is arranging every detail of every rendezvous that occurs. They fear something that can never be. They fear that unwanted things can assert themselves into their experience. And that is why rules are created. All rules are created by people who think that creating rules is what is going to protect them. Hi Rochelle, good to see you. Danielle, good to see you. Awesome. So Abraham, if you really step back and you look at what Abraham teaches us, you can have, be, or do anything you want because nobody controls your thoughts. So if you gave up all your negative beliefs of how other people are able to control your experience, if you just let go all those beliefs, then the universe would be able to find a way for you to get the things that you want, as long as you keep yourself high on the emotional scale. And that it's really as simple as that. So, there are people, I was reading the story of someone the other day, because the Rotary Club had a speaker there, and they were talking about how they had escaped persecution in their country, and they had come to Canada as refugees, and 20 years later they are now settled here and they are Canadian citizens. And the thing is, they wanted that freedom. They wanted that freedom. So the universe found a way for them to get away from that country and come to another country. Now, that may not have been an easy process, but they got what they wanted. And the only reason it was not an easy process is because they had beliefs about it. They believed that it would be hard, and therefore it was hard. When you take any event apart, and that's one of the things that I did do in this book, which just came out, Manifesting Miracles, where I've collected stories from you, from people, and Yolanda, you are on the call just now. Your story is in the book, is that I've tried to explain connect the dots of how each story unfolded. because that's the missing piece. We forget how law of attraction is working in the background. It's almost like you go to the theater and you see this amazing performance on stage. And you forget that in order for that amazing performance to take place on stage, there are more, maybe 10 times more people behind the stage compared to the actors who are on the stage, who are bringing everything together. They are orchestrating all of this. And that's what we have to remember. Behind every story of success and behind every story of failure, law of attraction is working. And if you just pull that curtain aside and see how law of attraction is bringing things together, now you have power. Now you have power because now you understand how the universe works. All right, let's keep going. Abraham says, by deliberately focusing your thoughts in the direction of your broader understanding and no longer wasting time and money on things you cannot control, you will not only come into alignment with Source and feel the relief of that in your emotions, but all things wanted can then come to you, because it's about alignment, 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 alignment. When we are aligned, all things are possible. All right. And then Abraham says, on top of that, to find your peace regarding anything, it is necessary for you to set aside your desire to find approval from others. Set aside your desire to find approval from others, because here's the thing, you see, this is the yummy stuff. The desire for approval from others is also a desire, just like any other desire. And the law of attraction is also responding to that desire and is making it possible for you to manifest the approval of others. Every single thought is a prayer. I wrote a whole book about it. Okay. So then Jerry goes from there, and his next question to Abraham is on page 123. Jerry says, it seems to me, as I have evaluated sexuality within our culture, that we have what might be called the high priest who doesn't engage in sex, and then there are the common folks who do engage in sex, but only for the purpose of creating children. And then on the lower end of the hierarchy, there would be those who would engage in sex for pleasure, but it seems to me that we all have some of all of that. Abraham says, we have to interpret you here because all of those ideas come from a perspective. We have to interrupt you here because all of those ideas come from a perspective of lack, from humans believing in their unworthiness. So let me refresh your memory as to what Jerry just said. Jerry said, it seems to me, as I have evaluated sexuality within our culture, that we have what might be called the high priest who doesn't engage in sex. So what is he saying? He's saying that at the highest level are those people, maybe religious people, who do not engage in sex, and they are the purest. They are the best. But are they? Because Abraham says that they are coming from a perspective of lack. And then Jerry says, and then there are the common folk who engage in sex because they want to have babies. And Abraham says that they too are coming from a perspective of lack. And then Jerry says that the lowest on the rung are those people who engage in sex for pleasure, and they are on the lowest rung. Why? Because pleasure is considered wrong, And Abraham is saying, well, they too are coming from a perspective of lack. And then I'm going to submit to you that there are those people who engage in sex for money, for prostitution. Where do they fit on this continuum? Let's read on. We have to interrupt you here because all of those ideas, Abraham says, come from a perspective of lack, and most definitely prostitution does. Prostitution comes from a place of lack because the person engaging in prostitution thinks that there is no other way for them to find abundance. They feel that that is the only thing that they can do, and they don't like doing it. They are doing something that reduces their self-worth, and they don't like doing it. So if you combine those two ideas, then that is coming from a place of lack, not from a place of having. So then Abraham says, your physical life experience is a life of sensuality. You come forth into this physical realm with the sensual eyes with which to see, and sensual ears with which to hear, the sensual nose with which to smell, the sensual skin with which to feel, and the sensual tongue with which to taste. I'm reading from page 123, right in the middle of the page. This leading edge time-space reality is about the intricate vibrational interpretations that your physical senses provide, and all of that is for the enhancement of your physical experience. So, if you curb your enjoyment that is coming to you from your physical senses, that means you're coming from a place of lack. If you will pay attention to your emotions, they will help you find the appropriateness of your behavior. And again, I'm going to say to you that any action that hurts someone else is taken from a place that is low on the emotional scale. So, someone who wants to gratify their carnal sexual urges through rape, that's not what we are talking about here, because that person is not high on the emotional scale. Anytime you take an action that hurts someone, you're not coming from a place of love. That is not about following your guidance. That is about following your momentum. I want to just point this out to you, that there are two things going on here. You can obtain your guidance from momentum, or you can obtain your guidance from your inner being. When you obtain your guidance from your inner being, you do not take action that is going to hurt anyone else, because you have to close the gap between you and your inner being, and that gap can only be closed when you go up to a place of love. So a person, I know this question has been asked of Abraham, and it has been asked of me as well, and people say that person was grinning when they were engaged in this heinous act. And my answer to that is, there might be a grin on their face, but if they are knowingly hurting another human being, they are not high on the emotional scale. And if they're not high on the emotional scale, they are disconnected from their inner being and from source. That is them acting from momentum. Because when negative momentum becomes so high, it becomes uncontrollable and you must act. And that action is always coming from a place low on the emotional scale. Guidance from momentum is not guidance from your inner being. And that's really what I want to bring to you. Remember that. Okay. Let's keep moving. If you will pay attention to your emotions, they will help you find the appropriateness of your behavior. And that's what it is. If I'm doing something to someone else and that person is screaming and shouting, and that person is crying, am I really feeling good? No, I'm not. I am, in that moment, I can stop, because that means that that is complete and total disconnection with Source. All right. Then Abraham says that humans stop believing in their value and their worthiness. And that is really, really important. So humans, at some point in time in history, stop believing in their value and worthiness. And it has been a gradual erosion, so slow that it takes many generations for this kind of thing to happen. So it happens through our unawareness. We don't even know that it is happening. And I was engaged in a discussion with someone who was, it was a very complicated discussion, and I don't know if I can share all of it with you here, but I will share a snippet of with you over here. The basic premise was that that when people are hurt, that organizations, companies, employers should do something to help them. And where I agree that help should come to these people, but I don't believe that there should be a rule that the organization has to take responsibility for the sloppy creating of their employees. Because I don't see employees as being helpless. I see them as powerful beings. But the thing is, if you start saying, oh, you poor being, you poor child, of course you can't do this for yourself. Here, let me do it for you. What are you doing? You are taking that person's power away. You are making them feel helpless. You are encouraging and perpetuating helplessness. And I don't want to be someone who gives energy to that. And I would not have become someone who even realized this unless I had listened to the teachings of Abraham. But the point is that when people become complainers, and you and I, we both know those people who are perpetual complainers, they always have something to complain about. They have lost their feeling of being powerful. They feel powerless. That is why they complain. And to encourage them to complain even more, is that the right thing to do? Because listen, here's what I want you to know. The universe is not responding to their complaints. The universe they are complaining and asking and asking and asking, and the universe, that which we call God, is not yielding to them. So the question I want to ask you is, should you? Should you? And I've come to the realization that I care, but not that much. I care, but not that much. I care more about helping people to feel empowered. I care more about showing people that they can change the way they think and feel, and therefore change the reality that they live and create. I care more about that. Because helping them feel better and agreeing with them that their complaint is justified is a short-term measure that is creating a long-term problem, contributing to a long-term problem. And so this is how we make decisions. Hi Danielle, good to see you. This is how we learn to make decisions based on the teachings of Abraham. Yes, it can be really, really simple, and it can be really, really complicated. So let's keep going with the book. Kind of went off on a tangent there. So Abraham says it's been a gradual erosion caused by the disallowance of connection with source. So this programming, this erosion of human value and self-worth has been a gradual process. And now a feeling of unworthiness runs rampant on your planet. And much of human thought is directed towards lack, which only promotes more disallowance of alignment with source and with love and with well-being. So important to understand. All right, we will probably go to the end of this section. So then Abraham is reminding us that we are extensions of that which is source. We are extensions. And every time your experience poses a problem to you, an equivalent solution is born. When you live through something that you do not like, you don't have to put words to your desire. The universe already knows from the emotion of your not liking something. The universe already knows what you want. And the solution is created. The solution is born in the experience of source. Source is experiencing the solution, not you. Not you. And so because of your willingness to live and explore and experience contrast, you are giving birth to constant new rockets of desire, and all that is expands because of what you are living. Did you know that the word Allah in Islam means all that is? That's what it means. That's another tangent. Okay. So, when it becomes your dominant intention to find good feeling thoughts, then you become one who is most often a vibrational match to the source within you. And the good feeling that will then be usually present within you is your indication that you are fulfilling your reason for being and that you are continuing to keep up with the expansion of your own inner being. So, what is that? That is alignment, going high up on the emotional scale. Now, here's something that I was talking to people in the Unlimited 365 group the other day. Yolanda, you are part of the group, but you may not have heard that segment, is that alignment does not mean instantaneous manifestation. So you bring yourself into a place of alignment, there is still a buffer of time for things to appear. This is one of the things that I find goes wrong with people who start this work, law of attraction work. It's a mistake that I made when I started law of attraction work, is to think that now I'm aligned, so where's my stuff? It should be coming. But there's always a buffer of time. And the buffer of time is because there are physical things that need to be altered and brought together in order for a manifestation to take place, number one. And also because, number two, if you say, where's my stuff? You are going backwards, you're going down the emotional scale. And so that's why there's always a buffer of time, because you literally have to stop asking that question in order for things to move forward the way you want them to. So Abraham says every experience causes you to expand. And your positive emotion is the indicator that tells you that you're heading in the right direction. Now, Nicole and I were recording the new weight loss program based on the teachings of Abraham that we are going to be announcing very soon. But the thing about that we were talking about is that there's a pre-manifestational stage in which vibrational work is possible, And that's the stage in which your emotion can guide you. But there's a post-manifestational stage in which the manifestation, the negative thing that you didn't want, has already happened. If you're already in the post-manifestational stage, then just doing vibrational work is no longer enough. If you haven't manifested the weight gain, you can keep it away with emotional vibrational work. If you've already manifested the weight gain, it's not going to go away by just vibrating it away. That's the time to take action. Abraham says, there are two analogies that Abraham uses again and again and again. And those are, if you've already jumped out of the aircraft, you can't get sucked back in. If you've already got the weight gain, you can't just shed it. It's there now. It's time for action. What is the action that you take if you've jumped out of the aircraft without a parachute? Well, the only action is to try and move your body, point your feet so that you can find a soft landing place. The other example that Abraham uses to differentiate between pre-manifestation and post-manifestation is if you're already in the middle of a fight, the blows are falling, that is not the time to sit on the ground and start meditating. You cannot meditate the onslaught of these blows away. Do whatever, Abraham says, do whatever it takes to save yourself. And then, after you have saved yourself, that's when you do the vibrational work. So, in the post-manifestational stage, we no longer have the time. The window of time for doing vibrational work is closed. You have to take action. And this is where things go wonky, because people don't understand this. Nobody understands Abraham more than I do. But the problem is that people think that they can use law of attraction and just their thoughts to take care of everything. Yes, but not after the manifestation has already happened. Now you have to do action as well as. So I'm not saying you just take action. You take action as well as do the vibrational work. You need to do both. So when the fists are falling, you have to tell yourself that you can save yourself. That's the vibrational work. And you actually have to fight back. That's the action work. You've got to do both. Because not doing the vibrational work means, oh, they're going to kill me. I might as well just lay down and let them do it. And not fighting back. Right? Okay. Let's keep going. Where was I? We are on page 124. And now Abraham, right at the bottom of the page in the italics, Abraham says, anger and hatred and condemnation are not symbols of alignment with God, but indicators of misalignment with that which you call God. And this is exactly what I was explaining to you before when I was saying that that person who is committing a heinous act, is raping someone with a smile on their face, they are not connected. That is not a state of alignment. So they are not happy, even though their face is smiling, but they are not happy people. If we were standing in your physical shoes, Abraham says on page 125, and we were contemplating an action that caused negative emotion, we would not proceed with the action until we had resolved the negative emotion. We would make sure that we had come into alignment with Source before proceeding. This is the advice that I was giving someone the other day. This woman that I was coaching wanted to leave her husband. She said that she was sick and tired and couldn't take it anymore. That he was controlling and not physically abusive, just controlling, and that she felt that because she was now following the teachings of Abraham and he did not understand any of this stuff, that she was not compatible with him anymore. And what I was telling her was, how are you feeling when you think that? Not good. She was feeling horrible. She was feeling so horrible that she thought that the only way she can stop feeling horrible is by leaving him. But I told her, when you're feeling bad, that's not the universe telling you to leave him. That's the universe saying, go up the emotional scale and then decide if you want to leave him. I'm not saying don't leave him. All I'm saying is do what Abraham tells us to do, because in your case, it is not come to blows. It's not a matter of life and death. He's not doing anything to you. And so, that's what Abraham is saying here, is that by feeling for the improved thought in time, and usually in a short time, you will feel the harmony of your source, and you will know the appropriateness of your behavior, whether or not you should take that action. We would not look for the long lists of right and wrong, but instead we would feel for the emotion of alignment with source. Negative emotion does not mean that you are not good. It means that your currently active thought does not harmonize with the currently active thoughts of source on the same subject. If you have come to believe that sexual interaction is wrong and you are about to engage in sexual interaction, your negative emotion is not confirming that sexual interaction is wrong. It is confirming that your opinion of your behavior and of yourself in this moment does not harmonize with how source feels about you. Stop and reach for loving, approving thoughts about yourself and feel the discord disappear. Don't take any action that you feel bad about. So, this is a big one, but Abraham says a lot of people engage in sexual interaction while believing that it is wrong. So, it doesn't go well. And this is how cheating happens. Cheating in marriages happens where either the man or the woman is having a sexual affair with outside of the marriage, and they think it's wrong, but they do it anyway. And they don't do anything to resolve this. So that festers inside them, that dissatisfaction festers inside them until it explodes one day. Usually in the wrong place at the wrong time. Alright. Then Abraham says something really important. They say, usually by the time you have spent 50 or 60 or 70 years in your body, you come to the very clear awareness that you cannot please them all. In fact, you usually understand that you cannot please very many of them because each of them wants something different from you. Attempting to guide yourself through the approval of others is futile and painful. But you must trust your inner guidance. In fact, it is really the only thing that you can trust because it holds the complete understanding of who you really are and who you have become. So, really, it all boils down to us understanding what guidance is and what guidance is telling us to do. Misinterpretation of guidance is also very common. Misinterpretation of the guidance that source is sending us. Because often we think that when we feel bad, source is telling us to run away. Source is simply saying, I don't look at this the way you're looking at it. So then, page 126, right at the top, the heading is, how can we coordinate our sexual co-creations? So let's read the question. that Jerry is asking. Jerry says, it seems to me that humans have within them an innate urge to procreate, as well as an innate desire to enjoy sensuality. And I believe that we also have an innate desire to create through thought. But the subject of sexuality really points to the idea of co-creation, where the desires and beliefs and intentions of two people are now involved. How can two different people who are moving through time and experiences continue to co-create in harmony? How can I coordinate my desires with the desires of my mate, since both of us are changing? In short, Jerry is saying, let me summarize for you, how can I keep enjoying having sex with Esther? All right. Abraham says, as we discussed in the last question, it is important that your desire for harmony with your mate not become a desire to seek approval from that person. There is no more destructive force to relationships than the feeling of the loss of freedom in the effort to find agreement, which leads us to another flawed premise. Flawed premise number 19. A good relationship is one in which the dominant intention of each person involved is to find agreement and harmony with the other. Yes, interesting, isn't it? All right. I was just checking for messages on Facebook, but I don't see any. So I am going to continue going, or maybe I will go and check Facebook messages on Facebook. Hang on one second. And so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I will pick them up. Here we are. All right, so that's good. I don't think I've missed any comments. Awesome, let's keep going. So then Abraham says, how could two people looking to find harmony with each other possibly be the wrong basis for a good relationship and a happy life? Both people have created their own vibrational escrow. Where did it go? To which they must seek harmony if they are to be happy. When finding harmony with your mate takes precedence, so this is the important thing. When finding harmony with your mate takes precedence over finding harmony with your inner self, there's a strong probability that discord between you and source will occur. And you know what we call that? We call that sacrifice. That's what we call that. And sacrifice, as Abraham has said, and I will repeat, sacrifice is a negative emotion. Don't ever sacrifice anything for anyone else. Don't ever do anything that you don't want to do, because sacrifice always comes back, because sacrifice demands a payback. I sacrificed this for you. What are you doing for me? And the other person doesn't have to do anything. So it's when you sacrifice what you want in order to not have a fight and create harmony, that's sacrifice. The thing to understand is that you never need to sacrifice. All you need to do is go up the emotional scale. Because when you go up the emotional scale, you don't have to sacrifice anything. Because everything that you want will be brought to you. That is law. That is law of attraction. So then Abraham says, their beautiful line that they always say, you are looking for love in all the wrong places. We are not suggesting that you should not want to get along well with your mate. But we are strongly suggesting the powerful benefit of seeking first alignment with Source. So don't be guided by having harmony. Be guided by alignment. When you find alignment with the source within you, you also find alignment with your furthermost expansion. And when you are in alignment with who you really are and all that you have become, you are then automatically in harmony with the best of your relationship with your partner. Couples or anyone involved in co-creation of any kind who attempt harmony by trying first to please each other always discover the flaw in this premise. See, you cannot create harmony by trying to please each other. That's what we call being a people pleaser. That is not a happy place to be. If you are a people pleaser, you're not a happy person. That's not what harmony means. Harmony means two aligned people. Sorry. Co-creating with harmony means you and your partner, two aligned people coming together to co-create. That's very different. So then Abraham says, if you see it as your job to keep your partner happy, and so you work hard and behave in ways that please your mate, you're actually setting your mate up for ultimate unhappiness, because you are training that person to look to you and your behavior in order to feel good. So that's artificial harmony. That's not real harmony. You do not make a good substitute for your partner's alignment with Source. So ultimately, we have to help our partners and people that we care about find alignment with themselves, rather than giving in to their every desire to help them feel better, which is basically what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about employers and employees. It's not your employer's job to continuously stand on their head to make you feel good. You are an empowered being and you should not need that. Neediness is the problem. All right, so then we are actually launching into a different topic, which is quite lengthy, and I don't believe that we have time for it today. So I will stop here on page 127. The next topic is fear of sex spoils the pleasure of being touched. Really important topic, and we will come back to it next week. All right, everybody, have a super fantastic weekend coming up. And for those of you who are joining me later on in the evening for the meditation class, I will see you there. Otherwise, I am signing off. Let's see who's on Facebook. Danielle Williams, Tamika Chambers. You're welcome, Tamika, Bev, Rochelle, Yolanda. Awesome. Love you all lots. Oh, you're most welcome, Bev. Take care, folks. Love you all lots. Bye for now.